Hi everyone, it's Tawney. I'm super stoked for this video today. Okay, on my phone's dying. As you can tell, it is Super Bowl week. The Super Bowl is not until next weekend. It is not currently, it's the Pro Bowl weekend, I guess. So now that I've gotten a reality check and my team has not even made playoffs, and my favorite player of all time, well, my second favorite player of all time has since retired, officially for good, I needed a little pick-me-up. So today, when I saw these on Treadmood's Facebook page, I instantly went to the link and I was like, I'm buying these. I have to get these. These have to be products that I own, even if I don't use them. They're just going to sit on my shelf and look pretty because I'm that type of person. I collect football stuff. I love football. I love to talk about it. I love to watch football. I love to hoard things that have footballs on them, okay? That's just my thing. I have lots of football attire. I have decorations all over my place. It is just, you can't walk in here without me even mentioning football once. I have to mention it at least one time. So when I saw these on Trendman's Facebook page, I was like, I'm buying these. So these are the Fenty Beauty, the new football sponge. It looks like this. And then I also picked up the new Gloss Bomb. It includes a keychain with a little football on it, which is the whole reason I actually got this. And it is in the shade Hot Chocolate. It is the one that looks like this. I've been wanting this one for a while. So when I saw that this was one of the gloss bombs listed that you could get with the keychain, I was like, I'm buying this. A lip gloss or any kind of lip product is typically one you don't need in a bigger size unless you actually want it. You can get away with having a smaller size versus a mascara or a product that the applicator would work a little bit worse because it's smaller. And I do want to preface that my voice might sound a little funky today. It went from being a 40 to 50 degree day to being a high of 22 or 26 or somewhere in that range, a high of 20 something. And I overnight got a sore throat. So my throat is just all clogged up. I'm a little snotty and sneezy, but that shouldn't affect the video. I always edit out any kind of sneeze, blowing my nose, rubbing my nose, if I clear my throat, if I cough. I know people are weird about that, and I'm weird about it too, so I edit that out so you guys don't have to be like, ew, she's so gross. She just coughed on Now, I will show if a product has made me sneeze, a powder or a foundation is kind of scented or something. In my previous e.l.f. video, which I will put in the eye and in the comment section, or one of the two, I had used a new sunscreen and it made my eye water. And you saw me sit there and rub my eye for a good minute. And that's something if it affects the video or it's revolving the products I'm talking about, I'll put it in there. If it's just me sneezing, just because I'm sneezing, we're not going to show that because I sneeze at everything. And every time I do my makeup, it makes my nose run. So I do apologize for that. I'm human. I'm sorry. So I'm very excited to be trying these out. So we're going to be using the sponge first. We're going to wet this just because I want to give it the best way that it can be used. And I don't want to be the reason that it's not. You get a bad review because I refuse to wet it. So we are going to wet this. I'm going to just apply a regular face of makeup. We're going to sit and talk football. And it's going to be a great video. So if you're interested in that, stick around, hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the notification bell so you get notified on when I upload all of my videos. So you get to see my rants, my get ready with me's, any vlogs I do. I do a lot of vlogging where I talk about, some DIYs that I'm working on, gardening. I love gardening in the summer and springtime. Then you also get to see me put together furniture like I did in my last vlog. Okay, this is what the sponge looks like. You can see the football threads, and then it has 13, which I think, oh, no, it's not a 13. It's FB for Fenty Beauty. Oh my gosh. On the box, I read it as 13, and I was like, what's the deal with 13? Is this a Taylor Swift thing that 13's your number? And then I looked closer on the sponge. I'm like, oh, it's FB for Fenty Beauty. Genius. So this is what it looks like in comparison to my hand. This is in comparison to, I think, the Real Techniques Face and Body Sponge. I think that's what this is. So you can see it's kind of the same height, but not the same width because this one's a lot chunkier. And then this is a normal beauty blender. I think it's the Shop Miss A, the Paw one or something, the one's really popular on there. So you can see that this one is a little bit bigger, and it does have like more pointier ends to it. This one's a little bit pointier than this one. I would say this one's a little bit more rounded, but honestly, you can't really tell much of a difference. So I'm going to go wet this, and then we're going to get started on our makeup. All right, we are back, and this is what the sponge looks like size-wise. Now that it's wet, you can definitely see it got a lot bigger. So I'm going to go ahead and put my moisturizer on. Are you guys excited for the Super Bowl? Do you guys like the Super Bowl? Do you like football in general? Or are you one of those weirdos that prefers soccer or like football over American football with this kind of football? I can never get into soccer. It's just one of those things that's like, it's not my sport. It's not for me. And that's just how it is. Wish I could, but I can't. Not even Ryan Reynolds can get me to like soccer. Oh my gosh, see, you almost had me calling it football. I have been a big fan of football, American football, since about 2013 or so. I think it was the 13 to 14 season. So like preseason or postseason is in 2014, regular season 2013. We had just lost the Super Bowl to the Giants again. Now, I don't know. I think that was the 11 to 12 year. I don't think that was the 12 to 13 because they call it the 2012 Super Bowl. So we had just lost that Super Bowl. I don't remember what happened the next year. And I was one of those people that anytime I'm going to be using, I'll show you the products, but I'm not going to like talk through them or anything. I'm one of those people that like growing up, I would tell my parents, don't call me down until the commercials are on or it's halftime because I'm not interested in the game. I don't want to watch it. I think it's a waste of time. Like, it's dumb. I'm not interested. Like, you know, call me down when something more interesting comes on TV. Like, back then I was like, MTV VMAs was my thing more so than the Super Bowl, which now I'm just like, girl, there's a lot better things to watch than the VMAs, let me tell you. But that's where I was at that point in time. About 2013 was whenever I was like, I had just been through high school and like I was starting college and all of this. So I was like in that age where like I was starting to like figure out what I liked and didn't like and kind of evolve myself a bit more. Whereas I feel like a lot of times when you're in school, you're kind of stagnant. Like elementary, middle, high school, whatever you want to call it, K through 12, you're kind of stagnant. Like, you're learning new things, but at the same time, you're very, like, set in place. And at least that's how I am as a person, I guess. So, I remember, I forget where I was or what was happening or what I was watching, but I remember a Patriot game was playing, and I saw Robert Gronkowski. He popped up on the TV, and he was, like dominating the game, like the best tight end. Like, he was just like doing everything that was needed to be like the best player ever. And to me, at that point in time, that was what I considered to be like top tier, like football playing. Like that was what I wanted out of a football player, football team, what have you. So I instantly was like, I'm going to be a Patriot fan. Like, I'm going to pick a team. I'm going to go with it. And where I live, you could be a fan of one of three teams. So I had always grown up being a Pittsburgh Steelers fan just because family was like big fans. A lot of my friends kind of leaned that way. It was just kind of easier to go more toward Pittsburgh because that's what everything, like, I always saw signs for it. It was just like, I guess it was the closest from where I live that like Pittsburgh would be the first team. So I remember, and I've seen Facebook posts, and I told my boyfriend, I'm like, if I ever do this again, you can punch me in the face and then tell me I deserved it. Going in with the Wet n Wild tinted moisturizer foundation thingy right now. So, and I forgot to prime. So that's going to be fun. But I was always a big Steelers fan just by like default. And I kind of realized that like I wanted to get into football, but just really couldn't do it. I couldn't understand it. And then once I saw the Patriots, I was like, okay, now I'm going to try and focus more on football. A lot of times the announcers and broadcasters will explain plays. People will like try and break it down for you so it's easier to understand as a fan, because not everybody has all this football knowledge. Half the time people never even played football in their lives. So like for me, I have no experience whatsoever. I have no idea what the refs are calling plays on, what the fouls are, no nothing. So I needed sort of a way for somebody to like guide me through it so it could make it a little bit easier for me to understand. Did this side with a brush. I'm going to go in on the other side with the Fenty sponge and just see how that worked. I don't typically do this, but I'm going to go ahead and try it anyway. But I got really interested into the sport, got really interested in like the teams and all of that. And the Patriots in 2014 ended up making the Super Bowl. Now, the year before that, I think was the year that the Seahawks went and they played against Denver, which at the time had Peyton Manning, which if you know me, Peyton Manning is my least favorite football player of all time. Like he is like, he is just Tom Brady's biggest competitor for the most part between him and Eli Manning, which I hate both of them. Eli for different reasons. Obviously, we would have had 2 more Super Bowl wins if he didn't play and that wasn't the case or anything. But I think that was the year that Peyton lost horrifically to the Seattle Seahawks. And I just kept thinking, if you're going to go to a Super Bowl, you need to win the game. You need to put some effort into it. You can't just not show up. Like, they lost, like, 40 or 50 to, like, 9. Like, it was pathetic. Pathetic. Like, insert the Simpsons meme with the superintendent where he looks down at Principal Skinner and goes, pathetic. Like, insert that meme. So I was super excited for the 2014 Super Bowl. That was the year that we played Seattle. Seattle was back-to-back Super Bowl, like, contenders. They won the first year, but they did not win that Super Bowl. Spoiler alert, they did not win. We ended up winning, I think it was like 26-23 or 23-20, something like that. We had an interception at the goal line. I was ecstatic. I'm one of those people. I'm not competitive when it comes to like sports in real life. I tend to be more like leaning more that way, but most of the time I'm really not, just because like I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not good enough to actually be competitive, so I'm not competitive. But when I'm watching a team that can actually do these things, I am like screaming. Like, I'm nervous for the Super Bowl. I get like, I don't want to eat because I'm like all anxious and stuff. And we ended up beating Seattle on a last minute interception. So I was like, oh my gosh, great. Okay, this is what the foundation looks like on this side compared to this side. I think I'm going to add a little bit more just because sometimes a sponge tends to shear out the coverage. And as you can see, it did pick up a lot of product, which typically happens with a sponge, but I don't really like that. But I'm not discounting that there's like anything wrong with the sponge. And I think a lot of times it's more about, can the sponge blend? Is it bouncy? Does it absorb too much product? Which I really don't. I feel like it does absorb a lot of product, but I'm not the best person to like say if it does or doesn't, because I don't really know sponges all that well. It's not doing a very good job of covering up this pimple. I covered up the first time I put something on it, it looked great. Then as I blended it out, it just kind of like popped back up again. I think the pimple is just meant to be visible, but I'm going to try and like spot conceal, and then hopefully that'll go away. I think I'm just going to use like a brush or my finger to spot conceal, because usually a sponge will pick up the product and not cover it up the way you want it to. So I'm not discounting the sponge. I think the sponge is average. I don't think it's any worse or better than any other beauty blender. If you like footballs, pick it up. If not, you're not really missing out on anything. That's kind of my review of this. But then the Patriots ended up missing next year's Super Bowl, which was Super Bowl 50, which really upset me because I wanted to be Super Bowl 50. Like, I wanted to be like the iconic Super Bowl. No, it was Peyton Manning. His team, if you ask me, someone who doesn't really know football but can just see what I see, he had been injured all that season, and I think came back for postseason, which was playoffs, or he came back just in time for the Super Bowl. Like, they kind of like planned it out that he would come back later, so that way he'd be ready for the Super Bowl and not get banged up earlier and not be able to play in the Super Bowl, because they kind of knew like they were going. Which, if you heard about any of the speculation that the NFL scripted, this will make total sense to you. Like, it'll all like, everything will like make sense. So they ended up winning the Super Bowl against, who did they play against? I don't even know who they played against. Oh my gosh. I have no idea who they played against. It wasn't Atlanta. I don't think it was San Francisco. It wasn't Seattle. No, it wasn't Seattle. It was Carolina. The Carolina Panthers. That's who they played against. I think. I'm not totally sure. But they ended up winning. Peyton Manning got MVP. He won, Super Bowl, and then he retired. And I was like livid. I was like, you cannot tell me that that is rigged to give Peyton Manning the glorious, like, leaving thing that that they think he deserves. I, in my opinion, don't think he deserved that. But that's just my personal opinion. Like, maybe being a really good quarterback, sure. But, like, as someone who's not a fan, I'm very upset about that. Okay, so now we're going to move on to concealer. And I'm going to go in with the KVD Good Apple or something concealer. It's my favorite one. So then the next year, Super Bowl 51, Patriots end up making it because Peyton Manning's retired, and it kind of makes the thing a little easier. It gives us a chance that we don't have to worry about the Broncos, because it seemed like every year we would end up playing them in the conference finals, which was the last two teams on AFC and NFC, and then those two teams that won out of those four would go to the Super Bowl. So the winner of those games goes to the Super Bowl. That's how it goes. And I would always get super nervous because I'm like, great, we're playing Peyton Manning, like, we're not going to stand a chance. We always tended to lose to them, which I learned, I'm going to use a different concealer to spot conceal, but I ended up learning that Tom Brady was really good against Peyton Manning in the early 2000s when Tom was first starting out. But as the years went by, the last couple years, which of course were the years that I was watching him, he ended up losing to him like almost every single time. And it was just like, well, I wish I would have seen the days where you're beating him all the time, but then maybe I'd be mad that I didn't get to witness the times that, like, you did beat him, or like I'd be mad that, like, it wasn't the same, I'm using the same side, the same end. It kind of looks like a lemon, honestly, but I'm using the same side that I used for the foundation just to blend this out. So I was super excited for Super Bowl 51. We were playing the Falcons. I didn't really know how good the Falcons were or not, because a lot of times in football, from my perspective, I just followed the AFC and I didn't really follow the NFC. So I had no idea how good teams were. I didn't really know any players on the teams. I didn't know, who were the best teams, like, who stood a better chance of making the Super Bowl, all of that. Like, I only followed AFC because those were the teams that the Patriots were playing. So I didn't really need to know about the NFC other than, like, regular season, the occasional couple teams you play against. But for the Super Bowl, I just needed to know about AFC. And then once it came time to, like, okay, who are we playing? Then it's like, okay, how good are they? And Falcons, like, were okay, but nothing special. I'm going to go back in with this same Real Techniques brush and just kind of pat this in, try and get rid of this pimple. It's not the worst pimple, and I'm not, like, horribly mad at it, but at the same time, it's like right dead center in the middle of my cheek. Okay, yeah, that concealer. It's a little bit too light, but it's fine because my bronzer will go right over top of it. I think the sponge works really nice on the under eye, and it gets in really tight. You do have to kind of squish it a little bit to get the inner corner, but most sponges you have to do that. So I think it is a really nice sponge. Okay, I hope this angle didn't change too much. I had to plug in my phone. I'm using my phone to film this video today. So my phone was dying, and I was like, oh, I gotta plug it in. So anyway, we're back to Super Bowl 51. And I was like super, super nervous going into it. I'm always nervous about, like, Super Bowls in general, and just like, are we going to win it? And I'm just kind of like, if you're going to go to Super Bowl, you need to win the game. Like, you can't just show up and not win the game. You can't show up and not put in any effort. Lo and behold, guess who doesn't put in any effort the full first half? New England. So the commentators are like, well, they need to do this and this and this, and they need to do this, and they have to get the 2-point conversion, blah, 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 and then they can win the game. And my mom is just sitting there like, it's not going to happen. Like, it's just not. And she's usually one that, like, hold out till the end. But I think this game kind of, like, changed her mind and, like, showed her to do that. Like, that's what you're supposed to do, is, like, keep watching. Don't give up so early. So, going in with the LA Colors bronzer. So, the Super Bowl starts, it gets into halftime, and we're down 28-3, or roughly about 28-3. I think third quarter was when we hit the 28-3, like, that full number. And it was just like, oh my gosh. And I was just sitting there, like, sad, because, like, it was the first Super Bowl I had watched where the Patriots could have technically lost. I never watched the ones with the Giants, so I didn't actually know what it was like to lose a Super Bowl. Like, I had never really been invested enough that it would, like, affect me, like, personally. Like I've seen teams lose before, no big deal. But like this was my team. This was like you personally told me we're not winning. Like it was up, like it was on me. Like it was just all like you have to be sad now for. Like it was one of those things. And so we ended up, we kept scoring. We got some touchdowns. Julian Edelman made like the best catch ever. I mean, it was like unbelievable. He made the catch, and that kind of was like the catalyst for like the game completely being ours. Like at that point, it was just like the game is ours. Like if we're scoring well enough to do this, this is our game. So then we get it into overtime, and I'm like, oh my gosh, overtime. Like overtime's one of those, whoever scores touchdown first wins the game. So if you get the first possession and you score right away, game's over, you're done. Now I know they changed the rules for postseason. I don't know if that goes into effect for playoffs because the poor Buffalo Bills got their feelings hurt last year when they lost to Kansas, and they wanted a chance too, because it's just not fair that only one team gets a chance. Suck it. I don't care. It's not our problem. Like, deal with it yourself, you know? Play better so you don't have to worry about the other team, like, scoring before you. You never get it to the point where it's up to, like, one, you know, whatever. So we get into overtime, and I'm just like, oh my gosh. So James White, I can like picture this in my head. James White goes and runs in for the touchdown. Like it was an easy touchdown, not so much like he wasn't wide open. He didn't like run it in with nobody there, but he ran it in fairly easily. And I was like, oh my gosh, did we win? And they're like, wait a second, we have to like, there's a holding call or something. Like there was a penalty. So like, we have to redo this. Then I don't know which team it was on, but it was basically like, we have to do it again. And I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, what if we don't win the game now? I was like, because I thought we had won it. And my mom was like, no, wait a second. They're saying like, hold on a minute. I'm sitting on my couch. My dog had run into the room because I was screaming at that point. And he's like looking at me funny, like, girl, what's going on? What's your problem? And I'm like, bro, calm down. I'm excited. We're going to win the game. I'm going in with the On the Cusp Super Shock Cheek highlighter from ColourPop. So then James White pushes in, and the ref goes like this, and I am like jumping up and down screaming. Never been happier in my life, let me tell you. In my 20 years, roughly about that time, maybe a little less, I've never been that happy in my life. So I was ecstatic. I was super excited because I was like, oh my gosh, we just won the Super Bowl. I watched it like we made the best comeback ever, you know, it's awesome. So the next year, we go back to Super Bowl. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is great. We're going to be repeats. It's going to be like the 2001, 3, and 4 seasons. We're going to repeat history. We're going to be like the best dynasty ever. Like, it's just going to like, I felt like if we won that Super Bowl, it would have been like an instant, we're the best team in NFL history. No ifs, ands, or buts. Aside from maybe the 70-something Dolphins that went undefeated, which we should have done in 2007, but don't get me started. But then we ended up losing to Philly. And poor Gronk got the ball thrown to him he had the ball thrown to him as sort of like a last ditch Hail Mary type of a throw, which Tom Brady's not Aaron Rodgers. That's not happening. So it's just like, oh. So then poor Gronk was swamped, couldn't catch the ball, game was over. And I was like devastated, completely devastated. Because I was just like, we should have won that game. We're good enough to win that game. And we didn't win that game. And I was just like, what the heck? So then I think the next year after that, maybe, or the year after that one, we ended up going back to the Super Bowl. And it was our last Super Bowl with Tom Brady as our quarterback, which none of us knew about. We didn't really know that he was going to be leaving at that point because I don't think it was ever mentioned. We ended up going and playing against the Rams. We won 13-3. It was a very nice Super Bowl. It was nice and relaxing. Everybody says it was boring because the score was low. But honestly, I was able to relax the entire game because I wasn't stressed out that we were going to lose. Like, it was just obvious from the start that we were winning the game. So we ended up winning, and we got our 6th Super Bowl, and it was just like, oh my gosh, we're like the best team in the NFL. Like, I know we tied with Pittsburgh, but like, we're the best team. Like, that's just, we have the best quarterback ever. Like, you can't deny that we're like freaking amazing. So then the year after that, we have a terrible year. We go to playoffs. We lose against Tennessee. There was talks that Tom could be leaving, but not quite. like anything that like we knew it was coming. We were just kind of like, maybe he'll leave, but I didn't think he actually would. I'm one of those, I hold out for hope and I end up being wrong. It's happened 3 times now. But so we ended up losing, and the last play of the game, Tom Brady's last play with New England was a pick six. Devastating, right? Horribly awful. I was so upset. I was like, you know what? Not even interested in the Super Bowl. I'm so mad. And I was definitely upset because it was just like, this is like, it should be us. It should be us. Like, Tom Brady needs to go out and like blaze in glory. Like, I wanted him, and I've been saying this ever since it happened to Peyton Manning, and I am still kind of upset it never happened this way. I think Tom Brady should have had the Peyton Manning like finale. I think that when he finally decided he was going to leave for good, he should have won the Super Bowl, got MVP of the season and of the Super Bowl, and left as like the best quarterback that's ever been on the football field. Like, I just think it should have ended that way. But that's just my opinion. You can disagree with me if you want, but that's how I feel, and you're not going to change my mind. I've already made my mind up. So yeah. So then Tom left and went to Tampa, and then he won his 7th Super Bowl ring and became the best, like, he has more rings than any franchise does, which is kind of, and all of us, like, piggybackers that followed Tom down to Tampa, we got that Super Bowl win. My coworker has been a Tampa fan for, like, 40-some years, and I always joke with him that, like, Tampa's my NFC team, and New England is my regular AFC team. Like, I'll always root for New England. Even in the game where we played against Tom, I was New England. Like, that's how it was. But I would root for Tom any other game. So I went in with the e.l.f. Putty Eye Primer. So now I'm going to go in. I don't know why I'm like waving my hand like this. I'm going to go in with the Wet n Wild Always Naked palette, which it looks like this. It's very nice and brown. And I'm not sure why I like put off using it for so long, but we're going to use that today. So yeah, so now that Tom's kind of fully done, Gronk's been retired, all of the good players from New England have like left or are retiring or in some way are just kind of like moving on. It just kind of like, I'm a little sad, but I'm working on it. I'm working on like falling back in love with football, accepting my team for who they are. Like, I'm hoping that next season's better, but I've been saying that for the last couple seasons. Everybody always is like, yeah, we're gonna have a good year next year. It's gonna be fine, and then it ends up being the same as last year. And it's like, well, you can at least hope for the best. Sean Payton is going to Denver to be the head coach to coach Russell Wilson, who was like the biggest flop. When he went to Denver, it just like gosh, the powder like kicked back at me, and I was like, I'm all dirty. I all freaked out. It's very windy outside. And I heard a noise and I was like, oh my gosh, what was that? And it was just the wind. But I'm interested to see how things will go in Denver with Sean Payton being there and Russell Wilson. They had a terrible season. Like, I feel like Denver did better the year before Russell came than they did when Russell came. Like, everybody had such high expectations. I don't think I felt this way, but everybody was just like, they could go really far in playoffs. And I figured they'd at least make playoffs. Like, Russell Wilson's good enough of a player to make playoffs with a good team. And maybe he just didn't have that great of a team to, like, back him up. He maybe is one of those quarterbacks that, like, needs the team. Like, he had the Legion of Doom all those years ago in Seattle, which I kind of feel like a lot of times, if your players aren't good, your quarterback's not going to be good. And that's not always the case for everybody, but for the most part, that's how it works out. Like, a lot of teams, if they don't have the right, like, players and weapons and what have you, they're not going to, like, fully execute the way you want them to and need them to in, like, a crunch time moment. I'm excited to see what happens with some, like, lower level teams. Like, I want to know how well the Vikings are going to do, since they did really well this year. I think San Francisco could do really well. They need to figure out their quarterback situation, because they had, I think Trey something was their starter, and he was either a rookie or this was his second year, but I think he was a rookie, Trey Lance. But he got injured, and it was like a severe injury, so he was out like most of the season, I think. So it'll be interesting to see if he comes back or how well he comes back from injury. and how well that can work and if they want to start him again. Jimmy G, I like Jimmy G because he played for us in New England, but I've heard some stories that make him like one of the worst human beings in like one of the worst football human beings of the current age. Like, he's just like a very me type person. Like, it's all about me. I'm not going to sacrifice my body for you, which ends up making them lose and like things like that. So I think they need to figure out what to do with Jimmy, but I heard Jimmy's out of San Francisco. So that'll be interesting to see how it plays out. And then they have Brock Purdy, who did so well this season. Like, he got his team to they had like amazing, I think this from when he started to the end of the season, they won every game. They ended their record with like 10 wins or something in a row. He won every game in playoffs except for the game that, you know, didn't send him to the Super Bowl against Philly. But he played so well until he got injured. But they said he got the Tommy John injury, which I didn't know was possible in baseball or football. I thought it was a baseball injury. So that's kind of an interesting, I was a little bit surprised to hear that because I didn't know that fact. But I'll be excited to see how well he does and how well he comes back next year because I think that could be a good team. I like San Francisco ever since the year that they went to the Super Bowl and lost, but I think they should have won a couple, like 2, 3, 4 years ago, something like that. I've been such a big fan. I love Nick Bosa. I love George Kittle. I love Juszczyk. There's so many good players I can think of that are just like so good. And I wish that Jimmy was a nicer guy and just like fit the team better because I feel like they could be so good with him, but he's just such an arrogant piece of crap that like it's just not. And I say that politely. It's just the things I've heard and the things he's done don't make him a good guy in my eyes. This eyeshadow palette is so pretty. It is so nice. I love the way that looks on my eyes. It's showing up a little bit more orange on camera, which is more brown, like darker brown here, but I think it looks really cute. I was really surprised that Philly did so well this year because there was never any hint that they were going to be a good team this year. They just all of a sudden were a good team. Like, they weren't one of those teams that's like, okay, now they got all these good players. They're going to do great. They got a new head coach. It's going to be awesome. It was just like, oh, hey, Philadelphia's winning. They're doing really well. Like, shocker, Philadelphia. I'm not excited to see Kansas City in the Super Bowl. I don't like Kansas City. I don't like Patrick Mahomes. I don't like Travis Kelce. I'm mad that Andy Reid, like, I didn't realize he was around as long as he was, but now he's like catching up record-wise with Bill Belichick, and I'm like severely mad about that just because I want Bill to be the best head coach. I don't want Andy Reid to do that. Not to say they're not good and not to say they're not deserving of it or whatever. I was rooting for Cincinnati the entire length of playoffs, so I'm pretty bummed that that didn't work out for them because I really wanted them to win the Super Bowl this year. But I think Philly could give Kansas a run for their money. I think Philly's going to win it all. They've just been so good. Like, not just like, oh, we're going to pull off a win with like a 3-point kick. No. They're like, we're going to hold you to 3 points the entire game and beat you like 30-3. Like, we're going to like dominate and you're going to feel it from like the first touchdown we get. Like, I watched their game against San Francisco and it was just like immediately obvious that that Philly was going to win that game. They just like came out like ready to go to the Super Bowl. Like, this game was just the game in their way. And you can tell when a team just has that like energy to them. And I was just like, it was just electrifying almost, you know? So I'm excited to see how well that pans out. I think Jalen Hurts is such a good guy and such a good quarterback. And like, I think he's young, so he has lots of potential moving forward. So I'll be interested to see how well that pans out for him. I don't really care for Philadelphia much, especially after they beat us in the Super Bowl a couple years ago. I hold a grudge like you wouldn't believe. And you can get rid of all the players all you want, but I'm still going to hate you. Like, it's like I still am like mad at Denver because they beat us with Peyton Manning all those years. I'm going to go in with the L'Oreal Lumi Shake and Glow Dew Mist Setting Spray. But yeah, I'm very excited for it. I'm going to go in with the clean side of this and just kind of push in the setting spray on any areas that where it kind of like squirted out a little too much and kind of got a little chunky looking on the face. But I think this is a really nice sponge, and I'm definitely excited to use it. And I'm excited because it's a football. Like, oh my gosh. Okay, so now we're going to go in with the Gloss Bomb in the shade Hot Chocolate. Look. And I honestly think I'm going to take the keychain off because I'm just so excited that there's a football. I kind of want to put it on my keychain for like my house keys and stuff. That's the whole reason I bought this. Not because, oh my gosh, why can't I get this part? Not because I wanted the Gloss Bomb, but because I wanted the keychain that came with it. And I was like, you know, this is an opportunity for me to get the Gloss Bomb in this shade, which is what I've been wanting. So I was like, why not go for it? So yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and put on a lipstick. Or, yeah, a lipstick. I think we're going to use the e.l.f. O-Face lipstick in the shade No Doubt, which looks like this. I think this will be a good match for this one since it's like the brown one. I think that'll look okay together. I'm just really excited for Super Bowl. Super Bowl is like my birthday. Everybody knows it's like my holiday. Like, it's my party. You know what I mean? Like, my mom would always ask me, what food do you want? Do you want to get wings? Do you want to do pizza? We used to make our own wings with my dad, but then the last couple years, we never did. Like, especially once I moved out, we kind of stopped. But then the party moved to my place. So, and it kind of became my party, which I'm very excited about. So this year, I had built a big stadium snack thing where it's made out of a poster board that you can get at the dollar store, Dollar Tree, and you can put your snacks in like bowls and cups and whatnot inside the thing, and it looks like a football stadium for your food. And I'm super excited about it. I just put it together last night, so I'm really excited to see how that works and how everybody likes it and everything, because it's gonna look super cute. So this is what it looks like. It has, oh my gosh, I just realized this has a like grippy thing around it. So if you don't want that on there with the keychain, you can just pry this off, and it's the like mini bottle inside. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. I love that. So this is what it looks like on the applicator. It's a nice little doe foot. It smells good, but I don't think it smells like chocolate. Yeah, no, it smells like Kool-Aid, like a Kool-Aid packet. Yeah, that's what it smells like. Okay, so we're just gonna go ahead and put this on the lips. Okay, I don't know if you noticed, but it did like darken the lip shade just a little bit. But I'm not mad about that. Like, I figured, because I kind of thought that the lipstick would be a little bit lighter than the Gloss Bomb, the lip gloss, whatever you want to call this. I like the formula of the Gloss Bomb. I think it's okay. I don't think it's that great. I don't think it's like the most amazing formula ever. I prefer the cream gloss, whatever that is, better than the original Gloss Bomb. So if you like the Gloss Bomb formula, I would definitely say check this out. If you're a football fan, go check it out. This is not in any way sponsored. I feel like I want to like preface that. I just love football so much that I had to purchase these products. So I wanted to film them for you. I even want to keep the box because, like, look at this. I'm so excited. Rihanna totally capitalized on her halftime performance before it even happened, and I'm here for it. I'm so excited. Like, this is just like, this is amazing. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below about the video, about the products, if you're going to be purchasing these products. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Ring that notification bell down below so you get notified when I upload my next video. Stay tuned for that one, guys, and I will see you then. Bye.